In this session, we're going to be making some edits to this sink family. For example, we're going to try and add some things to it. So first I'm going to go into the sinks family. And as you can see here, it has a mirror by default. Now let's assume that we don't want this mirror, and for example, we might want to replace it with another. Or we could just eliminate it overall. But the question is, how can we edit the family? So for instance, let's say we're going to be adding a mirror to this family here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open a generic model family template. Going to the metric folder. Then I'm going to scroll down a bit, and I'm going to open one of the generic models. Now since I want to add a mirror to the family, it is best that I open a generic model that is wall-based. So instead of a simple generic model, we're going to go ahead and open a wall-based one. Because as you already know, the mirror is going to be wall-mounted. Therefore, we're going to go over here and open generic model wall-based. Okay, so this right here is the wall or the host on which your object is going to be placed. And now I'm going to go over here, grab the extrusion tool. And for example, I'm going to draw this shape right here. There we go. And now the next thing we're going to be adjusting is the thickness of this mirror. So do we want it to be 2 cm or a 3 cm or anything else you like? For example, I'm going to put 2 cm for this one. Then I click finish, and so we've made our mirror. This is actually the basic part of the mirror, and we're still going to have to adjust its width and height. So here you can add any parameters you need. For example, I'm going to go over here, then enable reference plane, and then I'm going to draw one right here and another one across from it on this side. Okay, now I'm going to zoom in on here and bring this end to this reference plane and lock them together. And on this side, we lock this end to the reference plane. Now I'm going to grab the dimension tool, then measure from here to here and to here. Then click on EQ to equalize them. Then I measure an overall distance from here to here. So there we go. Now I'm going to try and associate a parameter to the mirror's width. So for example, I'm going to go over here and name this new parameter width. And as always, after that, we're going to test it. So I'm going to go over here, and let's say we're going to make its width value 1500. And as you can see, it works well. Now let's try 1200, for example. And there goes the width. Now I'm going to switch to one of the elevations, where I'm going to have to readjust the height of the mirror and its overall elevation. So for that, first I'm going to draw 2 reference planes. One goes over here, and another below it. Then I'm going to select this extrusion, then stretch it from the top and lock it to this reference plane. Then we're going to bring the bottom to here and lock it. Then I'll grab the dimension tool, then measure 1 dimension on here, and we're going to give it the parameter of height. So we're going to name the parameter accordingly, and now we're going to go over here to test it. Let me bring this window a little to the side, and for instance, I'm going to put 1000 for it. And as you can see, it operates well, but the thing is that I don't want its height to change on both sides. What I'm trying to say is that I want it to be stretched from the top. So for that, I'm going to grab the dimension tool and measure this dimension. It's going to go between this reference plane and the reference level. And then I'm going to lock it. And now if I go back in here and increase the height value, let's see what happens. And as you can see, it's stretched from the top. So that's that. What we've done so far is that we've parametricized the width and height of this mirror. And pretty much we're almost done. The only thing is that for the last step, I'm going to select this extruded part. And I'm going to also give it a material parameter, so that then later when it's loaded into the project, I could edit it. There goes the material parameter, and now we're done. We can go ahead and save it. Going to save as, and let's say we're going to name it mirror for wash basin. So there we go. And now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to load it into the actual sink or wash basin family. So we're going to load it here. And now let's go over to one of the elevations. And as you can see, because this is a wall-based family, it's only going to be appearing on the wall. So we're going to place it, and there we go. Now let me also set this family's units. As in, I'm going to go over here, set this one to meters. with 2 decimal places. Alright, now we're going to select it. And if we go over to its edit type, we can not only edit its material, but to also readjust its width and height. So for example, for the width, I'm going to put 80. Or let's make it a little shorter. And as for its height, I'm going to put, for example, 90. And it'll look like this. I could also try and reposition it if I like. For instance, I'm going to move it like so. Now, how can we readjust the elevation of this mirror from the bottom to the level? You see, the thing is that the person who created this family in the first place, because they also included the mirror in the family, they've also put a parameter here and named it sill of mirror. You can also place that yourselves if you don't have it by drawing a reference plane, then measuring the dimension from the reference plane down to the level. And we don't need this one or this reference plane. Now the thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the align command, click on this reference plane as the base, and align the mirror sill with it. And now if I go over here and then increase or decrease the value of this parameter, as you can see, the mirror will also be repositioned accordingly. So that's how it works. Now as for its material, I'm going to go over to edit type, where I could assign to it pretty much any material I want. For example, let's take this glass material. We're going to duplicate it first, and then rename the duplicate. And now let's also assign a color to it. For instance, we're going to try this baby blue, and we're going to also lower its transparency. And as you can see, here's the result. Okay, so now there's also another thing we could do, which is actually something we commonly do in the projects. I'm going to try and edit this family, and more specifically going into this elevation of the mirror. So then we go here and grab symbolic line, and then we're going to draw about 3 lines like so. We're going to make them diagonal on the mirror. Just a couple of random lines. And as you can already tell, these lines symbolize that this family is of glass material. More specifically, this is a mirror, and this symbol is actually something we usually use in our projects. Not to mention that you could also adjust the length of these lines. Now, if I reload it back into the family, then you might see that the symbol falls out of the mirror. So I'm going to go back to edit family, and then I'm going to measure from here down to this reference plane and then lock them together. We're going to do that for this one as well, for all 3 of them, like so. So we're just going to lock their tips to the reference planes, and now if I reload this mirror into the family, then you can see that they will fall in the right places. Now if you think that their length is too much, still we can come back here and make them shorter. Let's also make this one shorter. And as for this one in the middle, I'm going to move its bottom upwards. And there we go. So do you see that? This way we were able to edit the mirror that we had in the family. And now to sum it up, we actually had a whole wash basin family to begin with, and then we edited its mirror. Now as for this mirror that we just added, it's also parametric, and now its width and height, and even the elevation of its sill from the reference level are all readjustable thanks to the parameters.